So let's go back to the references sheet. And here we want to calculate the commission for sales amount. And we have 3 sales agents in this example. And they have made the sales. And the commission rate is 5%. So we want to calculate what is the commission for each of the persons. So we know the formula. We can write equal symbol here, and we can click on this cell, the sale amount, and we can press the shift and 8 to get the asterisk, and then I can multiply it with the commission. I can click on the commission rate and press enter, and I can see that I get $50. Very good. So now I can copy this formula and I move down and write and paste it in the second cell. And this time it is giving me the value 0, which doesn't seem to be correct. So when I copy this and paste it again, so it is giving me an error. This is a value error. So something is not right here. Why is it that I'm copying the formula down, but instead of doing the right calculations, it is somehow messing up the calculations? So why is it so? To determine that, let's analyze the formula more closely in each of the cells. So basically, when I copy this, this is my original formula. So this is B6. If I double click this cell, so I can see which cells are being multiplied here. So B6 multiplied by C3. So that is the correct formula. But in the second cell, when I double click on this one, you see it has moved the values, the selections actually. So B6 became B7, which was quite intuitive, and that's what I wanted to do. But in this one here, instead of C3, it has moved also to C4. And C4 does not contain a value, so that basically means 0. And when 0 is multiplied with 1500, so that basically becomes 0. So that's a problem there. So this means that I'll have to change the formula back to C3 and press enter. And now it is calculating the correct value. So now, what about this one? I double click to check it. And the problem is that it is now trying to multiply a number with a value, with a text, the word commission. So that can be multiplied. So it's telling me that it is a value error. You cannot multiply a text and a numbers. You basically need 2 numbers. So that is the same problem. So I can go ahead and write the formula C3 here. And so that corrects the problem. But then consider the situation where you have, let's say, 1,000 values like this, and you have to multiply it by 5% each time. And what happens when you do you have to edit each of the formula? That's not an ideal situation. So to solve this problem, what we do is we can basically the formulas are of 2 types. So basically here, when I drag the formula down, so this formula, this is called the relative formula. What that means is that the formula is adjusted according relative to the cells next to it. So for example, when I clicked on B6, so this means one cell left to the original cell where I am typing the formula. Similarly, when I selected the cell C3, so it wrote C3 here, but it actually meant 2 cells behind in the same column. Okay, so but when I copy this, this becomes a problem. So to solve this problem, we have to somehow fix the formula over there so that it does not change. Okay, so for example, I want to drag it down. I want this row to change, this formula to change, but this address I do not want to change. So how I can achieve that? So basically, I can click on a cell that I don't want to change, and I can click F4. So when I click F4, you see that this C3, it adds $$ before C and 3. So from relative this formula has now become absolute. And that means that it will not change if I move the formulas around or copy the formulas around. Okay, so now let's try and move it down. Paste it here. So the formula doesn't change. So now when I double click on this, so this value is changing, but this reference, this address is not changing. Okay, so this is called absolute formula, absolute reference, and it is very useful in a number of scenarios. So you need to know that these dollar signs actually mean that the reference of that cell will not change when the formula is moved to other cells. Okay, so let's consider an other scenario for this. We have a list of donors, and they have donated a certain amount, and what we want to do is we want to calculate the rank of each of these. Like we want to know who is the highest donor and who is the lowest. We want to calculate the rank of each of these persons. And the formula for that is rank. Okay, so it gives me rank of a specialized value in a data set. And from data set, it just means a list. So I can write a parenthesis, and it asks me a value. So which value we want to rank? We want to rank this value. And I press comma. And in the second one, it asks me the data. And the data means array or range containing the data set to consider, like the complete list. So I can select the entire list, and that's it. Those are the two main things that this formula requires. And I can close the formula, press enter. So it tells me that Alice is number 3. Well and good. So if I drag the formula down, and let's ignore this for a moment, the tooltip, and let's analyze this. So it says that now this donation 7,000 is the rank 1. That's okay, because I can visually see that this is actually the highest value. But what about this one? 6,000 cannot be number 1. It should be number 2. But 4,000, this is number 2. So this is not right. Okay. So let's see what happened. So when I double click on this, it tells me that I have selected this cell and this entire range, and this is correct. But when I double click on this one, you see the range has shifted as well. Instead of selecting all the 5 cells that I had previously selected, what it is doing is it is moving the range down. And here too, it has moved it one step down. And that's why when I double click this one, so in this list, 6,000 is obviously the highest number because others are blanks. So it is giving it rank 1. But the problem is that it is not comparing 6,000 to the actual values. So to solve this problem, what I should do is I should change these formulas. This one, the range should be absolute, but the value I want to check should be relative, so that when I move the formula down, so the list does not change, the reference to the list does not change, but the value that I am comparing, it moves down so that it is calculated correctly. So let's copy this formula now, and you can see that 7,000 is now number 1, 6,000 is number 2 and 3, and so on. So now this is the correct version. So how did I change it? I selected the reference that I wanted to change and pressed F4 on my keyboard, and so it automatically updated the formula. Or what I can do is I can add these dollar signs manually as well. If I want, I can change the values and it should work. So now let's make this further one step ahead and make it a little more complex. So here I have amounts, the US dollar amounts, and I want to convert them to euros and Great Britain pounds and Japanese yen. And I have arbitrary conversion rates. So what should I do here? What I need to do is I need to multiply the value with its conversion factor. Okay, so when I press enter, so it gives me the correct value, but when I drag it down, the value changes drastically, which is not correct. So basically what I have to do is I have to fix this formula. I have to make it absolute. Basically what is happening here is that instead of multiplying 200 with 0.85, it is multiplying with 85 and so on. So I have to make sure that it always multiplied with this cell. This is O5. Okay, so O5, let's click on O5 and press F4. So it becomes $O$5. And now when I copy it down, so the formula is now referencing the correct cells. So this is good. But I want to multiply it with Great Britain pounds. So let's copy this formula and move it over here. So now what happened? This one changed and this one did not change. This is not correct because we wanted this to not change and this one should change. Okay, so I can either write the formula here and then here and then here and multiple times and try to correct the formulas, or I can be more I can try to correct this problem right here and try to fix it so that it is more efficient. So let's say, let's look at this closely and see what we want to change and what we don't want to change. So when I've moved the formula to right, I don't want this n to change. I don't want the n to change. I want the n to remain fixed. But when I move this 6 down, so I want it to become 7 and 8 and 9. Okay? So to do this, instead of doing it like this, like making both of them fixed with a $sign, what I do is I just add a dollar before n so that n does not change, but I remove the $sign before 6 so that 6 changes when I move it. Similarly, in this case, I do not want the number 5 to change, but I want O to change when I move it to right so that it becomes P and Q and so on. So I remove the dollar before the O and I can leave the 5 as it is so that when I move it down, so 5 does not become 6. Okay, so let's press enter and now move it down. So our values are correct. And if I move it to right and the values are still correct. Okay, so this means that now I have a row and a column absolute, and one row and one column is relative. Okay, so we can make the references half relative or full relative any way we want. Okay,